Hi, Paddy Upton here, still filming from a home in Cape Town. Today I'd like to speak about an important but rather heavy subject of depression. Now, to be honest, I've been in two minds about actually filming this video. On the one hand, I know it's a heavy subject and many of us don't need heaviness at this stage. But on the other hand, I also know it's a really relevant and important subject, particularly at this stage. So obviously you're free to not continue watching, but maybe listen in anyway. I'm not just going to talk about depression, I'm also going to talk about elite sport. And I want to state right up front that I'm not an expert in long-term clinical depression. What I'm specifically speaking about here is short-term depression in what psychology terms healthy, normal people. So let's start by shining a light on depression. Pre-COVID-19, and according to the World Health Organization, depression is one of the leading causes of disability in the world, with over 264 million sufferers worldwide. This refers obviously to the general population, looking more closely at professional athletes who are supposedly a healthy, normal population. In recent years, more than a handful of professional and international cricketers have admitted to temporarily suspending their careers due to some form of anxiety-related illness or depression. And looking at rugby in specific, a comprehensive study done amongst professional rugby players in South Africa revealed some fascinating insights. And let's remember, these players are current rugby world champions. The study showed that 100% of players reported suffering from anxiety. 40% of these rugby players suffered one or more symptoms of mental disorders. 13% of them reported suffering from depression, and additional to this, many reported suffering depressions at a time when their careers were significantly disrupted, which happens specifically when injured or soon after retirement. This depression following a disruption in career is particularly relevant and important at a time like this. One of the major findings of that rugby study was that mental illness is a big problem in South African rugby. And remember again, these are healthy, normal population. One of the factors that exacerbated the problem is the tough guy, cowboys don't cry attitude of some men. Many players said they didn't want to discuss their problems because they didn't want to admit weakness or defeat. One of the potential and tragic consequences of depression is suicide. Now again, I was really hesitant to even mention this here until I phoned a doctor friend of mine last week just to check in how he was doing, and he told me in that week alone he'd already treated 3 attempted cases of suicide, all of them healthy, successful male businessmen who, like that athlete who had just been injured or retired, all 3 of them had just had the rug of their career pulled out from underneath them. This is something we can't ignore at this stage. Looking a little deeper into the concept of short-term depression in healthy, normal people, research has shown that depressed people think about themselves and about negative things far more so than non-depressed people. Further studies went on to show that when healthy, normal people self-obsess about their problems, think about themselves and negative things, they actually become clinically depressed. So, what does all this mean for us? Firstly, let's be aware of our thoughts. Specifically, let's balance thinking about ourselves with thinking about and supporting others. And also balance thinking about our problems with thinking about all the blessings we have in our lives. Secondly, let's keep reaching out and supporting our friends, especially those who have had their lives and businesses significantly disrupted, no matter how tough we think they might be. Thirdly, if you happen to find yourself in a dark hole, reach out to a friend, talk about it, or seek professional help. If the toughest athletes in the world can admit to mentally struggling, then so can you and I. And the concept that cowboys don't cry is outdated bullshit. And finally, I'd like to ask your contribution. In the comments box below, share what you see as the positives or the silver linings or the things that are working in your life, the things we've got to look forward to. Write them in the comments box below. And when you're doing this, know that your contribution may well give somebody a much needed lift and a reason to feel good. As the rain begins to fall, thank you for listening into the somewhat heavy subject of depression. Let's all do what we can to lighten the load on those who might be feeling the heaviness.